Just moments from now, we'll uncover the incredible story of the Titanic, what led to her tragic sinking, the chaos that unfolded on board, and the mysteries that remain unsolved more than a century later. On the night of April 14, 1912, a 25-year-old wireless operator remained at his station as icy seawater slowly flooded the communication room. He continued sending distress signals until the very last moment. His courage was extraordinary. Yet nothing he did could stop what was about to happen. For 73 years, the Titanic rested undiscovered on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, and her story begins long before she ever struck an iceberg. The year was 1912. Newspapers across the world were filled with headlines about a magnificent new ship preparing for her maiden voyage. Images of the Titanic appeared everywhere. Ticket prices, luxury accommodations, and grand promises captivated the public's imagination. But the Titanic was more than just a ship. She was a statement. At the time, transatlantic travel was one of the most profitable industries in the world. Wealthy travelers, immigrants, and business people crossed the Atlantic in enormous numbers. Shipping companies competed fiercely for prestige and profit. Two giants stood above the rest. Rather than building the fastest ships on the ocean, the White Star Line chose a different strategy. Their goal was simple: build the largest, most luxurious, and most comfortable ships ever created. Perhaps we're not the fastest, they claimed, but who wants to spend an ocean crossing seasick? The plan worked. First came the Olympic, the largest passenger ship the world had ever seen. But even Olympic was only a preview of what was coming next. The company's true masterpiece would soon enter the water. Her name was Titanic. Constructed by more than 14,000 workers, Titanic represented the pinnacle of engineering and luxury. When she was launched, over 200,000 spectators gathered to witness the event. Many described the experience as surreal. It felt less like a ship moving, and more like the earth itself was shifting beneath their feet. To people living in 1912, Titanic seemed almost impossible. One of her anchors alone weighed nearly 15 tons. Inside, the ship was decorated with unmatched elegance. Grand staircases, lavish dining rooms, luxurious cabins, and state-of-the-art facilities made her the most prestigious vessel ever built. Yet some critics had concerns. While rival ships were beginning to adopt more advanced technologies and improved maneuverability, White Star Line had focused heavily on size and luxury. No one knew that these concerns would soon become tragically relevant. On April 10, 1912, Titanic departed from Southampton, England, on her maiden voyage to New York City. Under the command of Captain Edward Smith, the ship first stopped in Cherbourg, France, before continuing to Queenstown, Ireland. From there, she set course for the Atlantic. As Titanic sailed westward, warnings about ice began arriving from other ships. At first, they seemed routine. Ice warnings were common in the North Atlantic, and crews were accustomed to receiving them. But this voyage would be different. On the evening of April 14th, multiple vessels reported large icebergs directly in Titanic's path. Some of these warnings never reached Captain Smith. In the wireless room, operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride were overwhelmed with passenger telegrams destined for New York. Wealthy first-class travelers were paying to send personal messages, and transmitting them became the crew's priority. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped sharply. The sea became eerily calm. No wind, no waves, just silence. Shortly before midnight, two lookouts stood watch high above the deck in the crow's nest. Then, suddenly, one of them saw something, a dark shape, directly ahead. Lookout Frederick Fleet immediately rang the warning bell 3 times and called the bridge. Iceberg, right ahead. First Officer William Murdoch reacted instantly. Hard to starboard. The order was given. The wheel turned. The engines responded. But it was already too late. Even at a speed of approximately 22 knots, the massive vessel could not change direction quickly enough. Only 37 seconds later, at 11:40 p.m., Titanic struck the iceberg. The impact did not appear catastrophic. Many passengers barely felt it. But beneath the surface, disaster had already begun. The iceberg scraped along the starboard side of the hull, causing rivets to fail and opening several sections of the ship to the sea. Water rushed in. Compartment after compartment began flooding. Ship designer Thomas Andrews inspected the damage and quickly realized the horrifying truth. 5 watertight compartments were compromised. Titanic could survive flooding in 4, not 5. The ship was doomed. Andrews informed Captain Smith. Titanic had less than 3 hours left. The order was given to prepare the lifeboats. Women and children first. Passengers were awakened and told to put on life jackets. Many believed it was merely a precaution. Few understood the true danger. Meanwhile, the wireless operators began sending desperate distress signals into the night. Their messages reached ships hundreds of miles away. But help would not arrive in time. The nearest vessel, the Californian, was only about 20 miles away. Yet her radio operator had already gone to bed. Throughout the night, Titanic launched distress rockets into the sky. Crew members aboard Californian saw them. They reported them to Captain Stanley Lord. But confusion and uncertainty prevented immediate action. No rescue mission was launched. Hours later, this decision would become one of the most controversial moments in maritime history. As water continued pouring into the ship, Titanic's bow sank deeper into the ocean. The stern rose higher and higher. Panic spread. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the unthinkable happened. The largest and most luxurious ship on Earth disappeared beneath the Atlantic Ocean. More than 1,500 people lost their lives. Some drowned immediately. Others froze to death in the near-freezing water. For those trapped in the darkness, survival was measured in minutes. The screams that echoed across the ocean slowly faded into silence. And then there was nothing. Only darkness. Only the cold. Only the sea. More than a century later, researchers continue investigating the factors that led to the disaster. Was it bad luck? Human error? Engineering flaws? Or a combination of all three? What we know today is astonishing. The iceberg that sank Titanic had likely broken away from Greenland nearly a year earlier. For hundreds of days, ocean currents carried it southward toward the shipping lanes of the North Atlantic. At the same time, unusual atmospheric conditions may have distorted visibility that night, making the iceberg more difficult to detect. A moonless sky, an unusually calm sea, optical illusions created by layers of air with different temperatures. Every factor aligned perfectly. The result was one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. More than 113 years later, Titanic continues to fascinate the world. Not because she was the largest ship, not because she was the most luxurious, but because her story reminds us of something timeless. No matter how advanced humanity becomes, nature always has the final word. And somewhere in the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean, the remains of Titanic still rest in silence, guarding secrets that may never be fully revealed. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from history.